Awesome. We are live.
What's up, y'all?
Welcome. So there's like a slight delay between what you see here, but as we start trickling in, I'm gonna open up my LinkedIn so you can see. But we're so excited to welcome my buddy Jeremy here. I was
Watch
previously
out.
on Jeremy's podcast,
You were.
Beyond UX Design, and in the past, like I've been on his podcast for an interview, so I would love to interview him as my first podcast for Grayspace. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about
I'm lucky.
yeah, we're going to talk about content creation, soft skills, and podcasting as a designer. And welcome to Grayspace. Grayspace is a podcast that I recently started where I interview cool designers who are also content creators and founders, focusing on everything outside of their 9 to 5. So Grayspace was something that I had is this Instagram handle called I Run Grayspace since I was in high school because I was really into running. But now I want to interview people running their own pace in life, not the corporate ladder, but their own pace in life. So that's why cool designers and founders. Yeah, really excited to welcome Jeremy. And there's a slight delay between what we see on LinkedIn and here. So I'll give you a couple of minutes and have a warm-up question. So our first question we want to ask is, where are you all from? And what is your biggest fear? Let us know in the comments. Also, I'm here with Long Bunny here. Long Bunny is also like very long.
I love it.
I have another one on my bed too.
You have no idea if it's long. Do you have one that's like exactly like it but short? And you're like, you could do a thing like, which one am I looking at? Long bunny, short bunny? You could like,
I have a short
like a quiz
bunny.
game. Or something. Oh, I love it. That's so funny. Where did you find Long Bunny? I've never seen anything like that.
Amazon. I had Long Bunny at our conference. Long Bunny was the star of our show.
I love that. Do you ever wear it like a scarf? Like put it around? Like it seems like it would keep you really warm in the winter.
I should.
Although I guess in Silicon Valley it never gets really that cold, does it?
Wait, I should. I have an idea of like just wearing this to like flying to Bali, just like bringing a long bunny. It's like a neck pillow on the plane. You can make content with it.
You know how many conversations that would start? That actually would be. You would know the entire airplane by the time.
Yeah. Wait, I should literally do this. This is like a neck pillow.
How long is that flight from California to Bali? Is it a nonstop? Or do you have you have a connection?
So currently we're doing a 1-month founder creator house in Bali, and it's going to be October. But before there's definitely connections. So actually over 20 hours. But before then, we're gonna stop by Seoul and Singapore for 2 weeks, so like 1 week in each before heading to Bali.
Awesome. Dude, what I wouldn't give to be in my 20s again.
Honestly, like the reason why I am like this is in college, I feel like I also sacrificed a lot of my friends and social life because I was so focused on school. So now I'm just like, I grinded super hard during COVID. I made a lot of sacrifices and I feel like, but now I'm at this place in my life where I'm free from corporate, built up a lot of businesses. So I have like time and location freedom. So all these sacrifices I made. Yeah, I like literally don't remember any like lifelong friends I made from college because I was like an asshole as well. Like in high school, I asked what my model time was. And like my high school, it's like we live in like Cupertino, California, where everyone was like, what's your SAT score? So I was also like that. I was like a really, I wouldn't like myself as a kid. So that's why I had no friends when I was young. And now I'm just like learning and making more friends.
Yeah. I don't even remember my SAT score.
Me neither. I
know it wasn't
10 percentile. Yeah.
I want to say mine was barely 1,000, I think. Which like, I think at the time I remember not being good, but I don't know. Anyway.
Cool. But Jeremy, where are you currently located in? What is your biggest fear?
Oh my God, my biggest fear. I am located in Cincinnati. Well, actually Kentucky, but this confuses a lot of people. I was actually talking to Hang Zhu the other day and like, I was telling him I was in Kentucky and then I mentioned Cincinnati. He's like, wait, I thought you said Kentucky. I'm like, but I am. I'm like right on the border. So anyway, I say I'm in Kentucky, but I'm on the border with Cincinnati. So I actually live like a 10-minute walk to downtown Cincinnati. So anyway, if you're familiar with that area, that's where I am, Kentucky. Not in the mountains, although the mountains are close. But I'm actually like really close to downtown Cincinnati. I live in Kentucky. My biggest fear. Oh my God. I don't know. God, we're going to get deep today, huh? I don't know. My biggest fear. Geez, I think it would have to be something like with my kids getting hurt probably, or I saw like, this is like going so deep. I'm sorry. I don't know. You asked though. No, I saw a video the other day of like a little kid drowning in a pool. And I think like something like that would be like my biggest fear, my little kid, something happening to them. Anyway, I don't know. How do we get this back up?
Oh, no, it's okay. This
super
is
deep.
I love deep questions. I know where y'all from. It's like a nice warm up question. And I like to dive deep. I know it's like not everyone's cup of tea, but it's like what we're doing here because we are unconventional. Like I shouldn't swear because the algorithm, you know, like, but I swear a lot in real life because I'm passionate.
Oh, I curse all the time. Yeah, me too.
But like it's like bad for the algorithm. That's why I don't. But
is it bad for the algorithm? Really?
Yeah, I noticed. I asked ChatGPT about this, and I like read some studies. And I asked other creators, like, should I swear on LinkedIn? Should I swear? But like, no, because you get shadow banned if you swear too much.
Oh, maybe that's why I get notifications. Oh yeah, I don't know. Fuck
yeah, I'd be dropping F-bombs everywhere in person. So
so let me ask you this: does LinkedIn go through the transcripts and shadow ban us if we curse in a live video like this, or is it only in the text?
Don't know. You know what? There are all these AI tools out there. They could be like watching us right now.
Oh, somebody's watching us. I can guarantee you that.
I love. Hello, Big Bunny watching us. But yeah, I guess like since you answered your biggest fear, my biggest fear is disappointing people I care about. So yeah, that has to go deep.
I can see that.
Like I don't care about disappointing random strangers. Like I literally like post random things all the time, and people tell me to like not live anymore. Like I don't really care, but it's the people I care about who like get disappointed by me, and like that's what I care. But like strangers on the internet who are like probably living in their mom's basement with no faces and a profile picture, hiding, telling you like mean things. Like I literally don't care, but like people I care about. Yeah,
I think I'm with you. Like people that I care about, I don't want to let them down. Totally agree.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm based in San Francisco. If anyone's here, I see some comments here. So I see some questions. I will be answering some questions live. I have prepared a lot of great questions for y'all. I see Howdy Ross and Howdy John from Seattle. Oh, I'll be there. Wait, I will be in Seattle in like 2 weeks from now, and we're hosting a big fat launch party for Design Buddies and UX Go on August 28th. Biggest fears: providing for my family and how to be my authentic self in social spaces. And from Georgia, providing for myself. But anyways, let's get started. Like, please introduce yourself and like what is taking up most of your time these days, Jeremy?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm Jeremy. Like I said, I'm from Cincinnati area, originally from New Orleans, moved up to Cincinnati 4 years ago. I got transferred for work. What's taken up most of my time? Well, that was terrible about me, isn't it? You could tell I'm like I'm used to interviewing people. I'm not used to being the one interviewed. So I never have to come up with this for myself. But what about me? I'm Jeremy from New Orleans, live in Cincinnati. You probably, if you do recognize me, it's probably from LinkedIn or the Beyond UX Design podcast. But I've been doing design now for like almost 20 years now, probably a little bit longer than 20 years. Started doing like advertising type graphic design, advertising early 2000s. Started doing UX design specifically in 2011. Worked in little startups. I've worked in giant enterprises, cut my teeth on all that stuff. So I've done seems like I've done almost everything. Now I run the Beyond UX Design podcast where I interview awesome people like Grace. And we talk all about soft skills and the things that make you a truly effective UX designer beyond just the pixels and the prototypes, which are important. But, to excel in your career, we like to say that, those foundational skills, the soft skills and stuff are really what's going to push you up to the next level. So what's taken up most of my time, it's going to be Beyond UX Design and all the crap I have going on. So I wrote a book recently. I've got a book. I have a shop. I sell like cool art prints of like some of my favorite quotes. My favorite UX and design software related quotes. So I've designed a bunch of cool art prints. I think they're cool, at least. You can check them out, beyonduxdesign.com. I do coaching now. I just started that a couple weeks ago. So I'm doing coaching, one-on-one coaching sessions. I do the cognition catalog. I post a new cognitive bias and breakdown and how it affects software teams and how we interact with each other. Less on how the biases impact users and more how, as a software team building software, those biases affect teamwork and things like that. So the cognition catalog, I post one of those every Friday. So that takes up a lot of my time. And then kids and obviously family. My kids just started school. Summer's been crazy. Today is their first day of school. So I finally get like some peace and quiet in the house. So
babysitting.
So obviously like Beyond UX Design plus like consulting. I do consulting as well. So I've got client work and stuff that also takes on I don't know where I find the time, honestly.
Honestly,
Yeah.
relatable. I think people who tell you should just focus on one thing and you like a lot of things, I mean,
Yeah.
you should just continue doing everything.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Until like I just can't do one of them, I'll just keep doing all of it.
Yeah, relatable. But on your podcast, I'm very interested. Since this is the first episode of my live podcast, I want to know, how do you get good at interviewing people? Like, how do you like go about that? And what makes a good interview?
Yeah, well, okay, I'll work backwards. What makes a good interview? I think for me, it's one that's informative and also entertaining. So I think you can have a very informative interview. You could have a very entertaining interview. Each of those are probably good in their own right, but I think if you can figure out how to make them both entertaining and informative, I think you're going to have just a really effective interview. So my goal for every interview is to laugh at least 3 times. So if I can like crack a joke or get my guest to kind of open up and sort of smile and you know, kind of giggle a little bit, then I know it's going to be informative. What was the first part? I went backwards.
Oh, how do you get good at interviewing people?
How did I get good at? Well, you know, I don't know, honestly. I don't know if I'm really good at it, but one of the things that I have done in the past, I always played music, right? So like I've been playing music since I was really young, and I always liked jazz. And my uncle was really big into jazz, and he's the one who kind of got me into jazz. And one of the things that he always told me was about like John Coltrane. And what John Coltrane would do is when he would screw up, he would just do it again, like a few minutes later. So people thought it was like on purpose. So I think I got good at like being comfortable screwing up, and playing live shows, you know, helped obviously, but like, I think the live shows, playing music in front of people kind of helped me be more open and kind of like interact with people. So like getting up on stage is no problem. Talking to people is no problem. Interacting with people for me, I've always felt like sort of like an extrovert. And so I've always been able to kind of talk to people, but in those interviews, like bringing back John Coltrane, like to me, an interview is kind of like improv, right? Like you've sort of got an outline of what you want to talk about. It's kind of like jazz, right? Like there's no, you know, it's not scripted. I can kind of play and kind of hop around and we go back and forth. And I think interviews for me are very much like jazz. Like, you know, I'm kind of maybe the band leader in a way, and my guests are sort of going off of what I say, but you know, how do I hop around if I, you know, say a stupid question, you know, maybe like I'll ask something else later similar, so they think I'm like trying to be funny or whatever, even though I like may have just totally screwed up the question and asked the wrong thing. I don't know. But anyway, so I kind of see it as sort of like jazz and kind of like improv kind of in a way, like just sort of going off of what they say and how do I like keep this conversation going. And, you know, the nice thing about podcasting too is different from live shows is, you know, I can edit a lot in post-production. So if there's like an awkward silence or I get tongue tied or my guest messes up and needs to start over, I can always edit that out, which is, you know, different from a live performance in a way. But anyway, I don't know. Does that answer your question? Like kind of like, I like to treat it sort of like a jazz show where I'm just sort of improvising and kind of going with the flow, and sort of like a conversation, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
like
yeah.
going with the vibes. It just like naturally, but conversation with like an audience that you can like edit later, so like nothing is finalized, and making it educational and entertaining as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a question from LinkedIn user related. Hello there. How do I they would like, I don't know why it's showing up as LinkedIn user, but hello LinkedIn user.
He was doing that to me the other day on Restream. Same thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, no. So LinkedIn user would like to start a podcast and do some tutorials and all. How do I best organize all my content and output? So many ideas. How do you like prioritize and organize?
Okay. Yeah. So what I use is Notion, and I think most people probably use Notion nowadays, but what I do is I have a timeline view. I call it the timeline view. And Notion has this cool view where you can take a table and like freeze it on the left. And then on the right, you can see sort of like a calendar view. So it lets me kind of visualize like when I'm going to release episodes. So I'm like really lucky, I think, now in that I have people emailing me like constantly to come on the show. And right now I've got a backlog of like 100. I'm up to 100. So I just released episode 92 this week, or 91. Sorry. I've got guests that go up to 120. Episode 120, which is, I do one a week. So that's like next year, like next March. So I got to keep that organized, because like if I don't, I'm going to like totally screw up. So I use that timeline view and I kind of visualize like when all my episodes are going to be released. And it makes it really easy. If I need to move somebody around, I can just drag and drop and kind of visualize like when the episodes are going to be released. So that's really great just to help that. But then obviously it's linked to a Notion document. So I put all my notes and stuff in there. So what I like to do is when somebody asks to come on the show, I schedule a 30-minute interview with them, interview prep. and we talk about like, what do you want to talk about? You know, and I just take a bunch of notes. And what I do from there is I'll go and I'll craft sort of like a conversation outline. And again, talking about like jazz, like it's not meant to be, like follow it strictly, but it's just like make sure, you know, if we want to talk about 5-10 things, we're not, you know, harping on the first bullet point for 45 minutes or something, right? So that kind of helps. So I craft that outline. Usually I say like a week before, but it usually ends up being the day before because I always wait till the last minute. So that kind of helps me organize all that stuff. And then on Notion, I have a bunch of tags, like whether or not it's been released or if I've already booked or whatever. I tried to hook it up to an automation tool. What's that automation tool everybody uses that you can connect? I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, it was like really expensive. So I like stopped using that. But anyway, so it's all manual right now. I'm sure I could automate this, or if I had like a producer, it would probably be a lot easier. But I use cal.com to like schedule and stuff. So I always like send the link and it's like, hey, they can find something and book it in their own time. So that makes it a little bit easier. And then I use Riverside to record, which I like Riverside. I might move to, what's the one Descript just bought? I can't think of the name, but they have a very similar platform, but Descript's probably a little bit better for editing. But anyway, that's kind of my high level, my workflow. I don't know if anybody cares about that, but that's how I do it. That's how
I like that. Yeah, all these automations and stuff. I need to learn from that because like usually like this is my first podcast, but I've done like hundreds of lives. I have like a script / like discussion points, and I just kind of go with the flow and vibe with it and see what happens.
Exactly.
I'm so curious, like since you said you have a lot of guests, how do they find you and how do you decide which ones you want to have on?
Yeah, well, I don't always say, I mean, some people I'll say no to, but like for the most part, I find something, and this like goes back to like the jazz concept where like there's something there usually. And I always need guests, right? So like I have to, if I do it weekly, I need at least 52. I usually don't do one on like Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving. So maybe like 49, 50 episodes a year. So anyway, I need to talk to 50 people. Like, I don't know. I barely could think of 50 people to like invite to my birthday party. So like, you know, finding these people, it gets kind of hard. So it's kind of nice, like putting myself out there. A lot of people actually come to me and say, hey, I got this thing, or like PR people will come and like, hey, I have this interesting guest. Those people tend to be kind of like, I'm like, I don't know. There's not really something there. So some of those people I'll turn down. But for the most part, what I've done in the past is just keep an eye on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, and find somebody who has like an interesting perspective on something. And what I try to do every episode, what I try to do is start off, you know, like my audience, I think tends to be career shifters, junior designers to mid-level designers. I know I do have some senior and director level and things like that that'll listen, but for the most part, the audience is kind of skewed to more individual contributor, that level. So I try to think about every topic through the lens of that, right? So I think like, dear junior designer, dear career shifter, dear individual contributor. And then how do we talk about that topic through that lens? Because you could almost talk about any topic if you think about how to talk about it through that lens, right? So we could talk about, you know, literally anything. Could be like career, could be this, could be that. So anyway, that's kind of like, does this make sense? Like, is there something there? Would I find it interesting? I think if I find it interesting, doesn't mean everyone's going to find it interesting, but at least that would probably make a better conversation if I find it interesting. So yeah, so that's kind of how that works. Generally, people come on like, and then they ask me. I generally don't turn people down unless I feel like there's not something there. But you know, I like to like reach out to people and stuff too.
Yeah, I think you reached out to me and we connected through like an awesome design creator Slack, and shout out to Tom for creating that. Like thinking about what a target audience finds interesting, but most importantly, what you find interesting as well. That's why I started Gracepace actually, because like I wanted to know like content creation and like being a founder. Like I wasn't interested in like tips on climbing the corporate ladder. Like that's not interesting, but that's like what people in Design Buddies mostly find interesting. So I've like delegated that because I want them to be entertained, but like I'm doing this stuff as well.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't have the audience that like Design Buddies has, so it's kind of interesting to see. Like I don't know, you know, like maybe that is something. Maybe I do need to like poll people and figure that out. I don't know. I've never done like an official kind of survey, which I don't know. Maybe I need to do that actually. I don't know, but
maybe. Yeah, because like I feel like I like to look at how many views and engagement and comments things get and then kind of decide on there. Yeah, but what are some of your goals with Beyond UX design?
Oh, so it's funny. It's kind of evolved. Like when I started Beyond UX design, I had a full-time job, and it was really to just sort of like have this creative outlet because my full-time job was in an enterprise org, stuffy sort of corporate environment. It wasn't super creative, although I can't say it was boring. Like it was extremely interesting, and the problems are very complex, but sort of creative in another way, right? So I don't know. Like for me, the goals with Beyond UX when I first started out were really just like meet people, network, hang out, have interesting conversations. Over time, it's kind of evolved. Now that I'm working for myself, it's like, can I monetize this in some way while still not making it sort of like an infomercial? You know what I mean? Like delivering the same value while also making some money from sponsorships and stuff. So I've actually, before I never really did reach out to people and try to get sponsors. So now I'm trying to get sponsors. So, worrying more about that kind of the metrics that they care about, when before I don't honestly didn't really care about them. Now that I'm trying to get sponsors, I'm like tracking that stuff and trying to figure it out. And like, how do I increase this? How do I increase that? So that's been a shift a little bit, but it's sort of one of those things where like, I don't want that to take the main focus and then have the show suffer and the quality of the content suffer. So like trying to balance that has been really interesting, and sort of like, like I don't know, like how do I keep this interesting without making it seem like people are just hearing ads all the time? Because if you want to make money, you're gonna have to sell ads on it. But like, how do I make money in other ways? So anyway, that's been like a thing for me, is like, one, trying to figure out how to keep it going. How do I also make it so I want to keep doing it? Right. Because like over time, I mean, I'm like 90 episodes in. It's still fun, but at the same time, it gets somewhat monotonous. Like another week, another episode, another conversation about career shifting, another conversation about blah blah blah. So it's also been thinking like, how do I keep it interesting, and how do I make myself want to keep going so that I don't just get burnt out? So that's been a priority. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of shifted over time. It's kind of interesting, but the priority before was just like make sure I do one a week. And now it's like, all right, one a week's no problem. How do I actually make myself want to do one a week?
Yeah, definitely agree on sponsorships and not wanting to sound like an ad. Very relatable as well. So I'm very selective. But I see interesting question from Kaylee. So Kaylee asked,
Kaylee, what's up?
Yeah. So happy this is happening. My question is, how do you go about turning people down who reach out wanting to collaborate gracefully?
Yeah, well, it's really just like about framing the conversation around the target audience. So like, I'll give you an example. Last week, I had somebody reach out, like a PR person reached out, and there's two ways that I've found it very easy to turn them down. One, just say like, we're to do a paid spot on the show will cost $3,000. And if they're happy to pay the $3,000, I'm willing to have that conversation and take the $3,000, even if that conversation will be bad. So far, no one has taken me up on the offer. So far, nobody's paid to come on the show, which I think keeps the content high quality personally. But so that's one way, just scare them off that way with the giant bill. The other way is to talk about how, this doesn't fit. Like, my audience is A, B, and C, junior designers, career shift, individual contributors. For instance, I had somebody a couple of weeks ago that was like marketing background, and they were talking about like, oh, how to market your company, blah, 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 which is clear that this person had never actually listened to the show. It's just some random PR person did a search for design podcasts and like, reached out to me on probably mass email. So in that case, it's like very simple. Generally speaking though, most people that approach me like personally, that like, hey, I have a thing I think would benefit, or your guest would get something out of it, I don't always turn them down. I usually don't, actually, because a lot of times they're right, especially if they listen to the show and they understand who the audience is and the conversational aspect and what we're actually doing and stuff. Most people I haven't turned down. I've turned down far less people than I have. How do I say that? I've turned down a lot less people than you might think, I guess. So yeah, I think it's just tying it back to like the data, like this is my audience, this is the demographic. I don't think this conversation would make a lot of sense. Or pay me $3,000, I think.
Oh my god, so relatable. Because like I have so many people reaching out to me for design buddies too. Like honestly, so many people like just see me as like an ad placement, like as a nice person just wanting to like promote their brand with nothing in return.
Yeah,
I'm just like, that is cute, my darling, but your ad costs $20,000.
Oh my, I'm not even close to there yet. I'm happy if I get $500.
No, like I love that. Like, scare them away. I'm gonna like channel that in, but like at the same time, I feel like I kind of like I saw I've taken a 20,000 deal before, and I kind of
That is
regretted it.
crazy. Good. Really? Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay. Why did you regret it? I'm curious. I'm flipping to see this. I'm flipping it. Now you're getting
because
interviewed.
yeah. Okay, so I'm very selective on what kind of sponsors I work with, and I
Mhm.
want to make sure it's like helpful for both of us,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a fruitful partnership and all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it was like my first five-figure brand deal. It was like last year, and I was like, "Woo, sexy,
Mhm,
$20,000." All I had to do was like a couple of videos, but like, oh my god, like I had such a hard time like trying out their tool. Like I didn't
mhm.
feel comfortable like promoting it to my audience,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I feel like the integrity and trust you have your audience is more important than how much money,
I
because you can
agree.
always make more
Yeah,
money later on.
yeah,
So sometimes I would say like not now because I played around with the product. I don't think it's a fit, but I would love to stay connected to see if your product improves later and then in
yeah,
that. So it's like not now
yeah,
but
yeah,
later. But sometimes like it's like on them to follow. If they're like very
yeah.
want to follow with me, they will follow up. If not, like that is okay.
Right. Yeah. See, so I've never had people come out to me to ask to be sponsoring the show, to give me money. I always chase them. So I'm going after, the brands that like I think would be valuable. Like for instance, Wix, just next week is our last episode. Like Wix, to me, that's great. Like all these people listening, they can build case studies, portfolios, drag and drop, all this stuff. That's a great tool for my audience. That makes a lot of sense. Dovetail, another one. You research tools and all these things for UX designers. That kind of makes sense. I've been chasing Brain.fm. If anybody knows anybody at Brain.fm, they're amazing. It's like this tool that, or it's an app, a music app that like has all this like extra frequencies and stuff for like ADHD brains to help them focus. I'm trying to go after them. I've like emailed them and talked to them a bunch, and they keep like kind of blowing me off. So if anybody out there knows Brain.fm, I am totally down for having them sponsor the show. I'll even give them a discount. Tell them to holler at me.
All right,
But
bring that
those are the
down.
kind of things like I feel like for me as a designer listening to that kind of stuff, having ADHD, being able to focus and all that stuff, it's like perfect. That's like a beautiful, alignment
Mhm.
with guests and
Mhm.
sponsors. So same for me, although I haven't had people come out like random, shoe company wanting to sponsor the show. That's never happened. But anyway.
Yeah, I like low-key think I have ADHD as well. Like not just not diagnosed, but like my brain's like boop 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 boop, like distracted
Mm-hmm.
everywhere all the time. So
Yeah.
relatable. Yeah. Cool. Kaylee asks, if you were starting over on your content creation journey, what would you do differently, if anything at all?
Oh, I would not tie myself to LinkedIn. That is what I would. I could tell you right now. I've gotten banned or suspended 4 or 5 times from LinkedIn for literally nothing. Like it told me that I had suspicious activity, and I'm fairly sure it was because I was looking at a bunch of profiles and I had a bunch of tabs open, and I refused to pay for LinkedIn Premium. And I've been told that like there's limits on what you can do without paying for it, which I think is a racket. Anyway, I wish I would have started over. If I could start over, it would be like focusing that energy on something else, Threads or TikTok or YouTube or something, instead of focusing all in on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is just so closed and like they just control everything. I personally hate LinkedIn. I use it all the time. I personally can't stand it. I know we're like on LinkedIn Live right now. I hope like the gods aren't listening to this, like Shadow Manus. But I think LinkedIn is a total racket, especially if like all that stuff happens because I didn't pay them $50 or $40 a month for their premium thing, which I think is outrageous, by the way. Especially for like
Yeah.
job hunters who don't have a job. How they afford $40 a month? I have no idea. I think it's insane. Anyway, I would have diversified. I know like people say like focus on one, then grow. That's a smart move, I think, but I probably would have focused on one for a little bit, and I would have diversified off of LinkedIn much sooner. I guess I can always start, but like the thought of doing that is so overwhelming for me. I kind of just like, I don't know. I'm just kind of going with it. So
Why is
anyway,
it
that would be like
overwhelming? Do you want to unpack it?
just starting. Yeah, just starting. It's like a therapy session. Just like starting over with zero. Like on Twitter, I don't have a Twitter account. I didn't have a Twitter account. I used to use Twitter way back in the day, like 2011, 2010 ish, all the time. I was on it all the time. And I watched The Social Dilemma like 5 years ago, 6 years, whenever it came out. And right when that was done, I deleted my Facebook. I deleted Twitter. I deleted like everything except for LinkedIn, like everything. I deleted everything. I think I kept Instagram just because I had like all these pictures I didn't want to delete. But yeah, I just deleted it. So anyway, going back when I started doing content creation, I was like, shit, I need my I need my social presence back. So I had LinkedIn. I never used it, but I started posting LinkedIn, and just starting at zero again. I don't know. It was just overwhelming. Um, posting something in the ether and having nobody respond is very demoralizing. You know, I think anybody can kind of relate to that, whether it's content creation or just anything. So just like, I don't know, the churn of it, I think is just like overwhelming. The thought of it just kind of like makes me not even want to bother.
I think it's totally okay to feel that way. I think everyone starts somewhere, and oftentimes these algorithms, like you could, well, for some, like for example, like I worked really hard on the post and it doesn't get as many views. I'm like, what did I do wrong? But like the algorithm's not your control. That's on my email list. But I think it's worth it to try. Like,
I know.
I guess like today, you can post something on your Twitter or like Instagram.
All right, maybe you'll do it.
Yeah.
What's funny is I feel like remember we did our episode and we said if you post on LinkedIn, you know, and tag me and Grace, we'll, you know, your intro. Hey, I'm new here. Well, you know, hi, nice to meet you, and I'll send you a sticker. We've had so many people do that. Anyway, now it's like you're flipping the switches. You're flipping you're flipping the script on me, and now I got to go post on Twitter. All right, I'll do it today.
All right, send me the link afterwards. And everyone here, Jeremy, just find Jeremy Miller on Twitter and go follow him.
J Mills pays bills. J Mills pays bills, and also at Beyond UX Design Pod. I think it is at Beyond UX Design Pod. I think it's at I don't even know.
Yeah, go follow Jeremy. Give me some
at J Mills pays bills.
Yes,
that's my personal one. But anyway, yeah.
Cool.
All right. Started something beautiful today, I think.
Yes, you got it. And I'll check in on you and make sure we can.
Yeah. All right. Keep me honest.
Yes. All right. So Ross asks, hey, Jeremy, I'm curious how you edit your podcast to get super nice audio with minimal background noise. I recall Riverside has some sort of magic AI thing that cleans up an audio in a click, but I'd love to know your process and audio editing hacks for the pod.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is what I did. All right. So I use Audition to mix, but I use Riverside to record. And I love Riverside, and it's not the only one that does this, but I love Riverside because it lets you download like separate, tracks, right? And it's the high quality original waveforms. So you get those. It does have a magic audio thing, but you can't control the intensity of it. So, like for instance, if I have a guest and they happen to be like, you know, way back here and like talking like very lowly, it doesn't pick it. It might cut that out, or it might like manipulate it in some way, and it sounds like it actually sounds like it's weird. So it uses AI to kind of like break those things together. So I don't use it just because like the intensity. Adobe though, I have Adobe Creative Suite. I got here's a hot tip: wait until Black Friday, get the Black Friday deal, half off the Creative Suite for the year. So I did that. So I happened to just get laid off in December, right before Black Friday, or in November, right before Black Friday. And I was like, shit, I need it. And so I got it. And so I have the Creative Suite. So I use Audition. Adobe has an AI enhancer thing that you can, very similar to the Magic Audio thing, but you can upload the waveform and you can actually select the intensity, like 0 to 100. So you can kind of listen back and like do like a little slider, like move it. Cause sometimes people have like a lot of stuff in the background. Some people have very little, but what I found is that actually I get like really great quality audio, even if somebody's using like earbuds or something like that, right? Like even just like a mic, inline mic, whatever. It sounds like almost like a condenser mic. It's actually really nice. So what I do is I run that through that, figure out like how much I need, get the right one, download it, and I use Audition. Then on Audition, I have and it was free. Wish I could remember the guy, but there's a dude on YouTube who has like free presets, and there's a paid version that you can get. I got the free one, but he does like podcaster presets. So you can pull those in and Audition in each individual track. You can set like, you know, different levels and stuff. So I use his presets and it sounds great. Like it actually reduces some echo a little bit, if the reverb or whatever. And it kind of cleans up the audio and it makes it sound really crisp. So I use Audition to do that. And then I mix everything, and I use like Photoshop and Illustrator and all that stuff. So I use like InDesign for my book, laid it out in InDesign. So like I use all the Creative Suite stuff. So I personally like Audition or Adobe. So anyway, hope that helps, Ross.
Yeah, awesome. I'll check out the Adobe tool as well. I have a Creative Cloud as well because they're one of our sponsors, and that's what I have.
Oh, really? Creative Cloud. Oh, nice. You get free Creative Cloud? Damn.
Yeah, that's but awesome. I also create content for them too, so that's why I have it. Okay. Speaking of your book,
I love Adobe.
Yeah, I love Adobe as well. What do you think about Adobe and Figma?
You know, I mean, it all. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think like Figma probably could have benefited from the capital, but then even then, like Figma has got so much such a big user base, and they're making so much money. I don't even know if they need the capital, to be honest. Clearly their marketing engine is working really well. I mean, look at Figma and like how big it is. I mean, I don't know. I know Adobe buys software and then kills it. So like they did that with all the Macromedia stuff, so I mean, I don't know. Would Figma have benefited? Maybe. Would the users have benefited? I honestly don't know. It all depends if they like let them do their own thing. I think Adobe could have benefited probably to connecting with Figma, because like there's times when I'm like, oh man, I would love to import this logo, or I'd love to import this thing in Illustrator from Illustrator to Figma. I got to copy and paste or export a PDF or something. It's kind of a pain. The Adobe fonts in Figma would be awesome. There's probably a plugin for that, I'm sure, but native support would have been really cool. Not having to have an extra license would be nice. Pay one license to get off it. That would have been nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of speaking on your book.
Yeah.
What was your process of start to finish on your book?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, so here's the interesting thing. So I started Beyond UX Design, the podcast. I used to do ADP list mentoring all the time. And I can't remember if it was like 5,000 or 10,000 minutes or something. It was like crazy. I did so many freaking minutes on ADP list. And every single session was like identical. It was, can you critique my portfolio? What does a good case look like? How do I get a job? How do I network? How do I do like all this stuff? Right. And so, all of that stuff was just like, nobody knows these things. Why are people asking me the same thing over and over and over again? And so that's kind of how the podcast came about, right? I didn't do interviews at first. Actually, I would just like basically write like a blog post kind of, and like read it and talk by myself. I called them a solo episode. So I did like probably 15, 20 of those, the first few episodes. And then I realized I ran out of stuff to say. And so I started doing interviews, but all that stuff I had written was just sitting in a Word doc or a Google Doc. Right. And so, over time, I was thinking like, there's a theme, there's like an overall, there's like a story arc to a lot of these things, right? It was like, portfolio advice and networking and getting a job and interviewing and ultimately like dealing with the BS that comes along with the job and all the soft skills and the importance of relationships and networking internally and the idea of followership and all this stuff. Dealing with uncertainty and complexities in especially big organizations. So there was sort of like an overall theme, like an arc. And I was like, I could probably put this together in a book. And it was just like the idea was in the back of my head, and then I got laid off in December and I was like, well, shit, what am I now? I got all this free time. What do I do with all this free time? And so I took like a lot of those like things that I already written and started to try to figure out like, how do I put them together into sort of like this longer format of a book. So anyway, so that's what I started to do. I just sort of put it together. And before I had actually written, I was like, I need a deadline, because someone asked in here, I can't remember, someone asked about ADHD. Like I need deadlines. If I don't have a deadline, I will just keep putting stuff off and I will put it off and I'll put it off. So I was like, what's the best way to give myself a deadline? What if I do a pre-sale? So I did a pre-sale of the book. I'm like, I hadn't even finished the book yet. I was like, I'm gonna do a pre-sale. And I used that as like an announcement for my layoff. So it was sort of like, hey, I got laid off, but turn lemons and lemonade, got all this free time. I'm going to finish the book. So I did that, did the pre-sale. And so that gave me a deadline to actually finish it. Right. So anyway, so long story short, put it all together, put the book together, and it's just ebook version now. I'm working on a print version. I got some really cool stuff. Tom Griever, Articulating Design Decisions author, wrote a foreword for me. So I'm putting all of that stuff in the second edition. I'm going to reformat some stuff and I'm going to put I'm working on a print version. So that'll be really fun. And hopefully I need to give myself another deadline, because I've been talking about this for months and I haven't done it yet. I need to just give myself a deadline. Maybe you can give me a deadline. Maybe you'll hold me accountable for that too.
Yeah, let me know.
But anyway, so I'm working on a second version, but yeah, with ADD, it's just like, I don't know, kind of so hard to focus. And then I've got all the other things too. It's like a million things in WIP, like how do I just like focus on like one thing at a time? So,
yeah.
Anyway. Oh, Leonard, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I had an awesome review from Leonard too, by the way. Thank you for that.
Yeah, check out Leonard's content as well.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of speaking of what your book is about, like soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like kind of on the topic of deadlines, I feel like being socially accountable for it also pushes me. Like having a running group in the morning to get me up at 6 a.m. That's like I won't sleep in because I can't let people down. But kind of speaking about
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say having a community, like I think that's really important. Actually, Chris Wynn, who I'm sure people listening probably know Chris. He's on, LinkedIn and UX Playbook. Anyway, he started a community called Backlog. So I hang out on there. It's in a Slack community, and we do like weekly check-ins, stand-ups once a month. And it's like a really great way to hold us accountable for that. So I can't remember the URL off the top of my head, but check out Backlog and check out Chris Wynn. You can probably find Backlog through him, but it's just like a really great way to like hold yourself accountable. Because being a solopreneur, entrepreneur, and doing it like all on your own, it's like really hard to keep yourself honest, and like, you just get sidetracked, and because they're your own personal deadlines, you're like, well, I'll do it next week. What's the big deal? But then that turns into months, and then it turns into like years, and then you never actually do it. So anyway, that idea of community, it's so important, especially if you're trying to go and like do something on your own.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway,
definitely. I need people.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. But...
No worries. I also I know we want to talk about soft skills as well, and what your book is about. After like doing all these like mentoring on ADP lists, like I'm curious, like what is an underappreciated soft skill you think it is to have as a designer?
Yeah, well, this is something I think is so important, and I see few people talk about this. I saw some folks on LinkedIn posting about this like just last week, but I believe very strongly that if you are a UX designer, and this is probably true for any craft, whether it's product management or any skill that you've got, like the hard skills, the technical skills will get you to a point, and you got to have the hard skills. It's not to say soft skills alone will make you progress. If you're a designer, having the hard skills, understanding how to do your craft is critical, but to a certain point, it only gets you like so far. And to move past that, I think it's the relationships. It's being able to empathize with your team, right? And as UX designers, like we talk about empathy for users all the time, but we very rarely talk about empathy for the stakeholders, empathy for our CEO or our executives or the board, or empathy for the product managers. It's like UX designers are always fighting with them. Like, we're going to beat them at this. It's like, they're on your team. You realize that, like, if you beat them and they lose, you don't win. You can't beat a stakeholder. They're on the same team. If they lose, you lose. If you win, they have to be able to win. So I think that's really important, is empathy for your team, relationships, being able to understand, like, why is your product manager asking for this, and where are they coming from? Are they under deadlines? Like, did something happen with them? And what reason are they asking for this? What you think is as a ridiculous request, right? It's probably from their perspective, not that ridiculous. Otherwise they wouldn't have asked for it. So I think that's really important. And the empathy for your team, being able to collaborate, being able to communicate with those people that you perceive of as your enemy. They're not your enemy. They're your partners, and they should be seen as a partner. And I think that's probably like one of the most underrated skills as a designer. I think, naming your layers, using Figma, all that stuff, you got to be able to do that stuff. And that makes you an efficient designer for sure. But, to move past, to move up, to become senior, principal, influence your team and beyond, you got to be able to reach across the aisle.
Definitely agree. It's like raising people up, raising the right people up, and helping them be successful, and they will help you be successful, and creating something, having a shared goal together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm talking like a Gen Z, so I was like basically raising them up.
See, I'm like geriatric millennial. I'm like an old millennial at this point. So like, riz them up, kids. Yeah. Riz them up, kids.
Riz them up. Yeah, not Skibidi toilet riz, Skibidi Ohio riz. That's what those kids say these days.
My kids are in the Skibidi. I don't know where they learned that. Yeah, it's like Skibidi. I'm like, how do you know that? I didn't even know where you learned that from. How are you talking about, kids? I'm like, I don't even let you watch YouTube. How did you figure that out? I was like, other kids at school sing it, so they figured it. I don't know.
They sing it? Oh yeah.
Yeah, Skibidi bop bop bop. Yeah, Skibidi yeah. I'm like, how do you know that song? So like going back, so I was talking about like jazz before. I do this thing, pisses my kids off, but I do like a jazz version of it, right? So I'm like scat, like skibidi bop bop, yeah, skibidi bop bop, and they hate it. It drives them crazy. It makes it more fun for me. Thank you. I'll tell them you like it. I mean, like,
yeah, I like it.
See that?
Yeah. The bunny leader likes it.
That's right. So you better like it, kids.
Yeah, you better like it, kids. Have my kid over here too, Long Bunny. Long Bunny, if you guys haven't seen Long Bunny, is very long.
I love it so much. It's so funny.
Thank you. I make a lot of TikTok
It's
videos
hilarious.
with Long Bunny. Long
Yeah.
Bunny blesses everyone. Long Bunny. I also have a comic book series called Long Bunny, which is the goddess of AI. Every startup Long Bunny blesses becomes an AI startup. But
I like it. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope it works out.
Yeah, I'm like an old Gen Z, but I say Skibbity Toilet all the time, and people are like not hip with
Yeah,
that.
I still have like never seen the actual source. I don't know what the source material is. I've never actually seen it. I can at this point, I'm not sure I want to be honest.
It's
I
like
kind of
this
want to just like keep it.
yeah, I've like did some brave research on it. It's like for those who don't know, I feel like most people here are probably like Gen Z and above. Skibbity Toilet is like these Gen Alpha kids say these days, and I think it's important as a designer to be culturally aware of these nuances that exist within the rising generation. So Skibbity Toilet is there's this man's head sticking out of the toilet and they're like taking over the world, and there's like a movie about it, and kids these days are allegedly say that like from what I heard from middle school teachers, like just like say it all the time. And I've like said Skibbity Toilet all the time on TikTok, and people seem to like it too. So I don't know. I'm trying to be hip with the kids.
I don't, you know, I'm like at this point, I got like all the gray in my beard. I'm like middle aged. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick with what I know.
That's okay. It's okay.
I'll let somebody else do it. You seem more adept at crossing that generational divide than me. I'm just here for the show.
Yeah, Gen Alpha. I feel like Gen Alpha is such a nicer name than Gen Z. It's like they're alpha. Anyways, yeah. But I'm kind of curious, like kind of going back to soft skills in your book, like what is an example that of a challenge that you faced with your teammates, and how did you resolve it with like stakeholder empathy?
Yeah.
And I'm going deep
again. Yeah. I mean, there's like kind of like probably a million. I mean, I worked for like a giant global conglomerate for a long time, and there's just so many teams. Every team has a different priority. You know, they all have different goals. They're all working on different stuff. They're all building separate systems that all interact with one system at the end of the day, which is what the user interacts with, you know. And so you've got, you know, these, I don't know, like 10 different pieces of software that all have to connect. And a user is using this one, from their perspective, one piece of software, but it doesn't work. Like it doesn't connect. I have to go to open this feature, copy and paste in another feature. You know, like their perspective, it all looks identical. It's all the same URL. Why isn't it working? Why doesn't this thing talk to the other? And they get upset and frustrated. And so, you know, one of the things I did in my last job was service designer, like kind of working across, you know, like customer experience, like a level above user experience, and thinking about the system as a whole and how people, you know, sign up for accounts and what do the alerts look like, and like emails and error messages and support tickets, and how do the support team interact with that same person as they go through this process. So kind of thinking about that at a higher level. What is like a challenge I face more often than not is nobody cares what the other teams are doing. Right. They look at this and they say, well, my goal, my priority from my boss is to do blah, blah, blah. And then someone else is another priority. Maybe they align. Usually they don't. So what I've found is, you know, understanding one, like what are their priorities first and foremost? Like, why are you held accountable for this? And then how do you just reframe the conversation in a way? And sometimes this works better. It's easier than other times. But how do you talk about that priority from this person and this other person's priority in a way that like makes them aligned in a way that like gets them to think about it together as like one system? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What's interesting is like as a service designer, when you're up here and you're looking at everything down below and everyone else is down below and they don't see across the fence, across the, you know, fence is a good way to put it. They can't see what their neighbor's doing, and you can see, and you tell them like, hey, you're doing this and you're doing that, but it doesn't work together. Right? You're telling them essentially that they're not doing their jobs very well. Now you could say it in like a politically correct way or a way that, you know, doesn't piss them off, but essentially you're telling them that like they aren't working the way they should. And that's like very defensive a lot of times. It's like figuring out how to do that. What I found is like, instead of trying to have like big meetings, like smaller meetings, more meetings, but smaller meetings with less people. And I think it's probably a lot better time spent having 15, 30-minute one-on-ones with 10 or 15 people throughout the course of a couple of weeks than one big meeting with everybody for an hour. So I think for me, it's like those little meetings, you get to understand them, their perspective. What are you responsible for, blah, blah, blah. And then you go to the next person, same thing. And then you start to understand the system. and how those people work together. Because like there's a system, when you think about it, it's like there's a system for the software and how the software works together, but there's a system for how the people work together. Right. And if you can understand that system and how to like pull the strings in a way, or better, find the people who pull the strings and help them pull the strings or influence them to pull the strings in a certain way, you're going to get much more work or much better results, I think, at the end. So does that answer your question? I'm trying to look about what's the example of challenge you face of working with teammates and how do you resolve it? That smaller meetings, one-on-one, get them to talk and then figure out like from there, take it and figure out what the solution should look like. So.
And document as well. And just basically helping other people. It's interesting. Like when I worked in corporate, I was always told that I need to do favors for people high up the corporate ladder. And it helped me get promoted. So like, I
mean, it's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
I like to think about it. Like people talk about personal brand and I think that's sort of personal brand, but it's social capital really. It's what are you known for? And what do people think about when you're not in the room? And in that case, it's like they know you because you work with them. They probably didn't see it as, oh, Grace did me a favor, but they're probably like, Grace helped me out when I was struggling with something. Grace, I guess maybe that's a favor, I guess. But like, it's less about like quid pro quo and it's more like recency bias in a way. Like you were top of mind because you were the one who did something for them last versus someone who did something for them 5 years ago. Right. So you've got, that idea of social capital, I think is like really important, especially in like big organizations when most people are kind of faceless, nameless people, just an SSO or whatever. That's SSO, I don't know if people know SSO, like employee ID or something. But anyway, I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in my audience are probably working in tech companies. If you want to rise up the corporate ladder, make more money, make friends, strategically make friends with people high up in the corporate ladder, ideally in your org, or even like outside of your org too, and help them be successful at their job. And then and during performance review season, ask them to write a glowing review for you. And if you ever leave your company and want to find another job, ask them to write a LinkedIn recommendation for you, or like word of mouth. So it helps to have friends who are high up the socially constructed corporate ladder, but it's how you play the game.
It's funny you mentioned that. So like, this is something I like to say, right? Is like, you think about life. Simon Sinek, I mean, I'm not the one who came up with Simon Sinek. And actually, I don't think Simon Sinek came up with this, but the idea of the infinite game, right? Where we're all playing this infinite game. The goal is to keep playing. It's not to beat anybody, right? Just like I said before with your stakeholders, you're not trying to beat them. It's just to keep playing together as long as we possibly can. Life is an infinite game. Work is an infinite game, right? And so if you think about that though, which is interesting, the game, there's players and there's rules, right? And I talked about the system, there's a system, there's rules, there's norms, there's words that people say, there's acronyms people use, and people hate those acronym stuff. But like, if you can figure out how to like use that language and copy off of those other people, you become part of the in group, which allows you to sort of like get in that sort of like inner circle, and you become part of the in group, and you think about social capital and how do you understanding the players, who are they, what do they care about, empathy for them, right? Like we talked about. And then more importantly, sometimes even it's like, who do they influence? Like the CEO has several people that talk in their ear, right? And who talks in their ear? And then you can kind of like map out that sort of system and the rules and the game and the players and all that stuff. And I like to kind of think about that as a sort of an analogy for exactly what you're talking about.
It's a game.
Yeah, it is. I mean, play the game.
It's fun. It's fun. It's cute.
Yeah, it makes it. I mean, it makes it like kind of. It makes it a little bit less kind of miserable.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I remember when I worked in corporate, all the leaders like obsessed with org charts. They're like, show me. Also, this person reports to this, so that means you should do this. I'm like, now I'm just like, it's like a game. It's like strategy.
It is.
Like your
it
class.
Absolutely is.
I love it.
Yes, I love that.
I love it too.
It's so true.
Speaking of brand and social capital, how would you describe your personal brand?
Oh man, I don't know. It's funny as somebody who like has done it. I never really put much thought into like my own personal brand necessarily. I mean, I like want to be seen as like the fun to talk to person, like entertaining in a way, also informative, like I mentioned before. I don't know. That's a really good. I have never thought about that. Which is sad. I probably should.
The other question is, what vibes do you want to give off?
What vibes I want to give off? Friendly, happy, knowledgeable, obviously. I don't know. I feel like I'm not answering
No, makes sense. Like, honestly, that's how I think about it too. Because people
The
always
fun
ask me,
uncle of LinkedIn. Thanks, Kaylee.
Uncle of LinkedIn. I love it.
Not the weird, not the
I
weird, creepy
love
uncle of LinkedIn. The
it.
fun uncle, the one with like the convertible and like I'll buy you a pack of cigarettes or something. That's like, no, that's actually, never mind. That's like, that's borderline weird. Actually, that's not borderline. That's illegal. That's a felony, I'm sure. Anyway, forget I said that. Sorry, Kaylee.
It's okay. No, it's okay. We have 5 minutes left. I have to hop to another call in 5 minutes, but there's some questions I really want to ask, and
let's do it
from the audience. Where do you think LinkedIn is headed as a content creator specifically?
Oh my God. I don't know. I hope it doesn't do the TikTok thing. I think there's already TikTok. You don't need more TikTok. Like, why compete with TikTok? Be something different. You know, if you want to be like the professional network, I don't think you're going to impress people with like 5 minute or actually 60 second snippets of like content to make you a better accountant, you know, I mean, like, it's just stupid. Like, focus on education. I think they should focus on education. I think they should focus on courses. I think the AI stuff is absolutely stupid. I think the games are stupid. You know, I've never seen a social network that punishes people for using the software. It's so stupid. I think like I like LinkedIn because it's not anonymous. You know who you are, so you don't get the trolls like you do on Twitter. I like the long form content because you can explain and express ideas that you certainly can't in like 60 seconds or, you know, 220 characters or whatever. So I don't know. I hope they don't dumb themselves down and try to be Twitter or TikTok. I don't think there's anything wrong with Twitter or TikTok, but I think there's a place for that. I don't think like learning and networking professionally is the place for that. I think LinkedIn, we've talked about this in our episode, but like, I think LinkedIn could be more fun. I think LinkedIn needs more dancing. It needs more silliness. I think it doesn't need to be so stuffy and quote unquote professional, but at the same time, I don't think it needs to be like the shit show that Twitter ends up being or something. You know what I mean? So I don't know where it's headed. Only the LinkedIn overlords know where LinkedIn's headed, but I hope they don't go that route. That's my personal opinion.
I like high-key miss LinkedIn stories though. Those are my jam.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. That's not my thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, well, all different stuff, but
yeah, we all like different stuff as well. Yeah. I dance on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think that's great. I probably won't ever dance, but right now I like watching. What's
like,
that?
Videos are pretty hobby. Like my videos, my last 2 videos got like 200K views for some reason.
See,
like,
here's the thing I don't get, dude. So every Thursday I promote next week's episode. Every Tuesday I promote the episode as it's released. And the last like month, I have posted a short sub 60-second clip. I did the vertical thing, just like TikTok, thinking, hey, you know, this is gonna be. It got 80 impressions, and I have 16, almost 17,000 followers. I'm like, that math doesn't line up. Like 0.00001% of like people watch. So like, and then the next week I posted an image and it blew up, and I'm like, what? I don't get it. Like, why? If you're trying to be TikTok, why are you not showing these videos? I don't get it. Anyway, I just don't understand LinkedIn. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't tell I don't like LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, I noticed like my like horizontal videos, they perform worse than my vertical videos. So if I repost my content from TikTok on LinkedIn, it does really well because on mobile you have like a video tab, so you can scroll through, and that's
right.
I think
exactly.
That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, I'll do that format, and then it got 80 impressions. I don't understand. I really don't.
That's cool. It's another game we got to figure out. Just
exactly. I mean, I'm not complaining about the impressions. I think it's just kind of ridiculous that like
I think it's stupid.
I have to play. Yeah, like, so I have to play this game. It's like, well, it shouldn't be a game. It should just be like, make it available for people. If they like it, then great. But like, the algorithm clearly is suppressing it. If I have 80 impressions and 16,000 followers, you know, the math doesn't add up, right? So like, it doesn't make sense. It's just weird. Like, I have to play this game. It's like, I don't know. I'd rather play other games.
Yeah, honestly, same. Like, I feel like I like having more. If you work hard on your content, you want more eyeballs to see it and appreciate the hard work that you put into
it. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, it's just silly. Anyway, that another reason why I don't like it.
Nah, it's okay.
Whatever. Anyway, I don't want to keep complaining.
Yeah. Well, I want to end with this question. What are some of your life goals or anything that you want to share?
Oh, man. Yeah. Life goals. So my life goal would be to retire at some point. I don't even need to have a lot of money. Just I don't have to worry about bills. Make enough money in my retirement so that I can just live comfortably until the day that I die, hopefully very long afterwards. And just hang out and just enjoy myself. spend time with family, watch my kids grow up. You know, if they get married, if they want to, they're into that, they have kids, great. If not, that's also cool. But like family vacations when my kids are, you know, older, and that'll be fun, you know, beach house somewhere and hang out for the week and, you know, do that kind of stuff. That's a life goal. I don't know. I don't really have very easy. Doesn't need to be anything special, but it's crazy to think about like 20 years from now, I'll be retired, or hopefully we'll be retired, which is weird. It'll be here before I know it.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be soon.
yeah.
I want to ask this question from Ledar. I'm trying to get everyone's questions. How do you feel about the lack of hiring for UX in tech currently?
You know, yeah, it's just hard. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand why. I mean, maybe well, not maybe, clearly I'm biased. I think design, UX research, UX design in general, would be valuable. Personally, I think what's maybe more sad is that things like customer experience and service design is an afterthought in most organizations. I think service design and customer experience in general is, for most companies, something they should be focusing on. And if they were going to move resources around, I'd love to see them shift UX resources to customer experience resources. And I think a lot of those people could do that work. But for me, I think, you know, the focus on pixel pushing, clearly that's happening. AI is taking people's jobs. I think there's an argument that some product teams are probably taking the jobs of designers and they just want to hire more junior designers, or maybe not even junior. They want to hire senior designers to just be pixel pushers. They don't want to hire junior designers. You know, I think that's sad. I don't know. This is a hard one. I don't like it, obviously. I don't know the answer though. I don't have an answer. If I could hire them all, I would. But yeah, I think I would love to see more focus on like service design, customer experience, and that org. And I think UX should fall under that org personally. That's my opinion. I think product should fall under that org as well. The whole software team should fall under like the customer experience, because that is the touch point, right? But also, you know, customer support is under there as well. Like there's that touch point there. And I think that's something that most teams completely overlook. And I think a lot of designers, product teams, they focus on the pixels on the UI. They couldn't tell you what the tech support emails look like. You know, what's the tone and voice? What's the script for like when there's a support request? What does that look like? Because I can tell you that impacts the user experience way more than the color of the button and the border radius. You know, so it's sad that that's an afterthought. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, agreed. Anything else you want to promote? What do you want to share? Like your podcast?
All of things. Yeah. The great thing is like,
plug away.
So check out beyonduxdesign.com. Obviously the podcast, listen, download, subscribe. If you love the show, please 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave like some actual, you know, leave a note, a few sentences. Apple algorithm loves that stuff. beyonduxdesign.com/book. If you like any of this stuff, pick up the book. I also just started doing coaching recently. If you do an hour-long coaching session, you get a copy of the book. If you've already bought the book, you can apply the $39 to the coaching session too. So check out beyonduxdesign.com/coaching, beyonduxdesign.com/book. If you want to buy some art prints, I got like a lot of really cool quotes, like my Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. If you want to build a ship, you know, don't drum up the people. Don't hand out tools and bark out orders. Teach them to long for the vast and endless sea. I think that's one of the most amazing. I think it's perfectly analogous to like UX design. So I made like, you know, that's an example, an art print I have. So beyonduxdesign.com/shop if you want to get that. And if you want to use the code LIVE, I use that for my personal lives. I can't remember what the discount is, but I think it's like 20% off or 25%. I can't remember. Don't quote me, but use the code LIVE. So beyonduxdesign.com/shop/coaching/book. And that's it, I think. I also do consulting. If you are a team, you're looking for help with UX design, process, ops, all that stuff, consulting there, check out edgecasedesign.co.
Amazing. I will share that in the Luma for everyone who signed up as well. Thank you all for joining us today. We went through a whole adventure about talking about podcasting, interviewing people, soft skills, playing the game of the corporate life, writing books, and lots of great stuff. So thanks for being my first guest. I had some
of course. I am happy to be your guinea pig.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Hope you slay your day with no cap, big facts, skibbity toilet. No. Because skibbity Ohio Riz is like an insult.
What is that? Oh, yeah, I live like right by Ohio. Like, what is that? What is Ohio like a bad thing?
Yeah, apparently it's a Gen Alpha. It's like an insult. I don't know why, but
Why
like
is Ohio an insult?
I've
I
like
actually
started
like
to
Ohio. I
insult
don't just,
people by saying Skibbity Ohio Riz. Like this thing
I'm gonna
is
have to
giving
Google this.
Skibbity Ohio Riz. Yeah, Skibbity Ohio Riz. Everyone Google it and let me know what you think.
Is that a bad thing if you say something
Yeah,
is
it's an
giving
insult.
off? It's an
Because it's like that kind of Riz. Because like Riz is a good thing usually.
right. That's what I
But if
thought.
you're
Riz
like,
was a good thing.
if you have like this Ohio Riz, that means you have that kind of Riz.
Ohio charisma, right? Riz is charisma. I learned that from like some of my friends I used to work with. Okay, I'll have to Google it. I wonder why. Well, I live in Kentucky, but right on the border of Ohio, so it's not that offensive, but
maybe not that offensive.
Right on the border of being offensive.
Something offensive. Yeah. But yeah, I have to hop to another call, but I hope you all stay your day. And thanks so much.
Thanks, Grace. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Awesome. It's ended.